Assistant School Committee. Before we begin, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we continue, just a couple of housekeeping matters. You might notice the superintendent is unavailable this evening. The superintendent had something come up at the last minute that she had to attend to, so she's unavailable. And Assistant Superintendent Sheehan likewise had something that she had to attend to, although we expect her arrival hopefully soon. Second, we are joined tonight by, for the first time, by 3 of our 4 student government representatives. So I want to recognize them before we begin. First, our senior representative, back for her at least second year. Is it your third year? For her third year, Audrey Erickson is our senior student government committee representative. Second, a new member, a new student government committee representative to the school committee, Junior Michael Sullivan. And third, again, a new student government committee representative, sophomore Grace Varela. All right, with that, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, and I have a couple of additions and one removal from the agenda. First, yeah, sure.
I just ask, is Grace Varela any relation to Sheila Varela? I think
watch out.
it might be important to point that out now. We have two Varela votes.
2 female Varellas, Mr. Walker. Watch out.
This has to be a first in history.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
All right. All right. Well, we'll do our best in the face of that new voting bloc. So, moving ahead, on the agenda, we've had a couple of items come up since the agenda was posted that I think is fair. They're fair to include. First, under the superintendent's report, we're going to add a new item B, and that's Park MCAS update and potential impact on the district. There's been a lot of happenings with Park and MCAS in the last week and the last few days, so we'd like to get just a quick update on that. So that'll be item B under the superintendent's report, and happenings will be item C. And under the chair's report, we're going to add as item A, 5-year financial forecast requests from the town. We have had some requests from the town that we would like to deal with prior to our next meeting that have come up in the last few days, and so we'd like to add that to the agenda. So that will be item A under the chair's report, and the remaining items will cascade on down, B, C, and D. And then under the Finance Subcommittee, we're going to remove item B, which is the first quarter report. And so item B will be the approval of vendor warrants. Does anyone have anything further on the agenda? Maura, did you get all that? All right. Without objection, we'll approve the agenda for this evening. And we'll proceed first to citizen speak. And my understanding is that our sole citizen speak performers this evening are from the Milton High School cast of 42nd Street, which will be performing soon. And the 42nd Street cast of the Milton High School performance of 42nd Street will be performing for us Lullaby of Broadway. So if the cast will come and join us and break a leg.
You guys come over by the table, like up a little bit in front of the whiteboard.
Boss them around.
The rumble of a subway train, the rattle of the taxis, the daffodils who entertain at Angelo's and maxis and a Broadway '69. And happy babies do goodbye, baby. Good night. Sleep tight, baby. Sleep tight. Let's call it a day. Come on along and listen to a lullaby of Broadway. A lullaby of Broadway. When it gets too close to town and everyone goes crazy, you rock by your baby round till everything gets easy. Hush your mind, I'll buy you this and that. You hear daddy saying, baby goes home to her flat. You sleep all day. Good night, baby. Good night. Milkman's on his way. Sleep tight, baby. Sleep tight. Let's call it a day. Listen to the lullaby of old Broadway.
I would also like to announce to all of you and everyone at home that the tickets were on sale today. You can buy tickets in the main office at Milton High School as well as the main office at Pierce Middle School. And the dates of the show are November 5th. We will be performing at 7 o'clock at Milton High School, and as well as November 7th at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock in Milton High School. So thank you all, and have a good rest of the night.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Coming.
That was Matt McAuliffe, who was
In case
elected
nobody knew.
spokesman, yeah, for the group. So, everybody get out and see 42nd Street at the Milton High School. Maura, do we have anyone further for citizen speak? No? All right. We can move on to the superintendent's report, and that will be a combination of Assistant Superintendent Sheehan and Assistant Superintendent Pavlicek.
Thank you, Chairman. We have enclosed in last meeting's report, the diversity report for your review, and I believe that we were just going to ask if there were any questions, any follow-up this week to that report, if any of the committee members had any questions for us.
I probably will next meeting.
Meeting.
So, yeah, so we can include, what we talked about after the presentation, which was quite elaborate, was that we would give the opportunity for members to come up at subsequent meetings. So this is one of them, and we can obviously do that in the future as well. Does anyone have any questions on the diversity report tonight that they'd like to follow up on? If not, we can put that on and we'll follow up at the next meeting. Okay? All right, the next item on the agenda is the Park MCAS update, and any potential impact on the district.
As many of you have heard in the last few days, there's been a lot of talk at Department of Elementary Secondary Education about the future of MCAS versus Park. The commissioner has made several statements indicating there's not 100% behind Park so much anymore. They're talking about the possibility of a second round of MCAS, or an MCAS 2, as they're calling it, an online MCAS-related exam. It's going to be an interesting discussion. There have been, the commissioner has said several things, the secretary has said other things, and basically we're waiting for about 2 weeks till the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has their meeting to see how it's going to shake out. But at the moment, there's there's talk about, the continuing the conversion to Park. There's talk about a Park-like MCAS to be developed, and it's very much up in the air right now. I think what you're seeing in my own mind is we've got the Secretary of Education, who was very much instrumental through the Pioneer Institute in developing MCAS, and you have the Commissioner, who is very much instrumental in developing Park, sitting on the Park Board, and it will be an interesting discussion between the two of them as to how this shakes out. So I think that at the moment we're all watching the reports from today's meeting. I was getting some reports from various people saying, oh, the Commissioner's now saying this, or oh, the Secretary is now saying that. So I think in 2 weeks, when they actually bring it to or actually it's 3 weeks now, I think, when they actually bring it up for a vote, we'll see how it shakes out. But at the moment, it's a subject of debate. We'll leave it at that.
Can I ask a
Ms.
question?
Varela, yeah.
I was reading a lot about this, so I know it's up for debate, and, I don't know what concrete answer you can give, but it's a little dismaying to find, is it Chester?
Mitchell Chester.
Yeah, Mitchell Chester, who was instrumental, like you said, in informing, is he the one?
He sits on the Park Board.
The Park Board, and now to go against, to say, well, maybe we should do a MCATs like Part 2 or whatever, that's, I don't know, disconcerting in a big way, and very surprising that if somebody who plays an instrumental part in creating it now, and would be pushing it forward, now says, well, maybe we should do a mix or back and forth. It seems to be kind of a shocking statement in the educational community, yes?
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I think that some of the information that's coming out in the news is based on some parent feedback
I
and
see.
educator feedback that has gone to the Department of Education. And I think that is why he is saying that we may be considering some kind of a combination of tests, and is non-committal right now, because it appears that he is a supporter of the park.
Yeah.
But I think it's coming from other directions, parent groups that are organizing and so forth.
Just as a follow-up, I think that comes from, this has been the first year that a lot of towns, us included, that, we wanted the take Park at such the extensive level that we did. And I understand, even from the feedback from our own community, that they feel kids are over-tested and they're doing some Park and they're doing some NCATs, but I think it's, a bit of a shame to have to revert back after all the work towns like us did to implement it and not give it a chance to, nothing's easy the first year, and to go running back because I think, parents are I think parents, I've said this many times before, are overwhelmed by it and don't understand it enough, and then come up and put all the pressure on it. But to me, it seems like making such a big shift backwards after so much work to take a step forward, I feel might not be the best thing at this time, but, yeah.
Yes, Ms. Sheen.
If I just may respond, it appears that, I don't think we'll be going back to the MCAS that we had, or we may look at maybe just math and ELA, but it appears that we will be moving forward in that. There has been a lot in the literature about the Park test being more aligned with the new frameworks. So I can't imagine that we'll be going back to what we did. I think there will still be something that looks different. I think the important thing to note is that we are prepared no matter what test comes along, because we have put the, the technology in place to take an online assessment, and I think that our teachers are that much further ahead, having prepared for both MCAS and PARCC.
Ms. Padere?
Yeah, I would say that in terms of the technology upgrades we made, I don't think we're going to be going back to a pencil paper exam, at least not, they might extend the pencil paper portion of it, but the technology upgrades we made, I think, are putting us in a great position. My main concern with going from one to the other and then maybe something different is when we look at data and analyzing data and how our district's moving forward, I think it makes all school districts, it's hard because you basically can't compare the data from year to year and year. And that's fine to do once, but it's now extended to 2 more years, and now what's the third year going to look like? We still can't compare it. We started with something else. So I hope that whatever they come up with something that can be implemented so that we can start looking at data and compare it over the years again. And and the teachers can too, the internal data for what they compare and how do they improve and how do they look at what we need. So that would be my major concern. Not that I don't think anything we've done to prepare for the new tests is going to be wasted, but I just hope that they come up with something so we can start using, and the teachers can, and the administrators can start using that data again as something useful instead of just something we throw at the kids every year.
Dr. Donahue?
And at the risk of piling on and moving slightly far from the field, I will point out that where the state has already changed the benchmarks for our economically disadvantaged students, we are already suffering the effects of the inability to compare groups from one year to the next and I would urge the state, those of them who are watching and listening, to resolve this issue quickly.
Mr. Pavlicek?
Just in response to one of Ms. Farrell's comments, one of the things being bandied about is the possibility of not doing the March assessment and the end-of-year assessment on some of these tests, which is in response to the notion that we are spending a lot of time testing children.
I have one final thing.
Yes.
Just as a comment for somebody who works for one of the major educational publishers in the country, I don't know any discipline that all of at our house, at any of our major competitors, that are not creating with Common Core. I mean, it's aligning to the standards. I mean, not that everyone uses all mainstream, curriculum from places like HMH or Macmillan or Pearson, but like the major national curriculums that are coming out and being produced are aligning themselves with the Common Core too. So that's the core stuff that's being taught. So just another interesting perspective. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Next item is happenings.
I think I drew that one.
Do you want to do the
Go right ahead. You do the happening for the athletics. How's that?
Oh, the athletics. Do you want to do athletics next?
Go ahead and do the happening.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Zulus. We would like to thank all who contributed to the Science from Scientists Clothing and Electronics Collection event last Saturday. Our elementary science curriculum coordinator, Bernadette Moonen, reported that it was a great success. We have a special thank you to Pauline Wells and Brandon Grimes, who played last Sunday at the First Parish Church concert. All proceeds will be donated to the Milton Public Schools music program, so we thank them for that. Another thank you to all who volunteered their energy and time to yesterday's Milton High School Boosters Swing for Sports, October 20th, 2015. This event was also a great success. Tomorrow, October 22nd, author Alice Hoffman will be speaking at Milton High School at 4 p.m., prior to her being the guest author at the Milton Library Gala tomorrow evening. Students and faculty are all looking forward to this event and to welcoming Ms. Hoffman to the Milton Public Schools. Just a few reminders of upcoming events. October 22nd is the Pierce Fall Fling Parent Fundraiser, and that's at Esther's. Next Sunday, all are looking forward to the Monster Dash. That's October 25th. On October 26th at 7:30 PM is the Fall Town Meeting. On October 29th, we have the Milton High School Grades 5 through 8 Information Night. And as our very talented students just shared with us, on November 5th, Milton High School will present 42nd Street at 7 PM. On November 7th, at 2 and 7 PM, there will be another presentation of 42nd Street. The next school committee meeting is November 4th. And we would also like to note that on November 18th, the school committee meeting has been changed to Monday, November 23rd at 7 PM. And Dr. Pavlicek will finish that.
We also have a few athletic updates. I've been sitting at this table for 13 years, and I've never been able to say this. The varsity football team is enjoying a terrific season with a record of 6 wins and no losses. And they have a big game this Saturday at Wellesley High School, 3 PM. That'll determine the champion of the Herget Division. Our coach, Steve Dembowski, has been recognized by the New England Patriots. Andre Tippett was here to present them with a Coach of the Week, and the Wildcat team was on Channel 5 with a high five segment last week. The girls' soccer season is off to a good start. They've already qualified for tournament play. They have several more games to play and hope to have a home game for the tournament. In golf, the varsity team won the Bay State Conference Championship match last Wednesday at the Spring Valley Country Club in Sharon, and Captain Walker Stroud competed in the Division II South Section golf tournament yesterday and finished third, shooting a 74. He now is qualified to move on to Division II state finals next Monday. Our cheerleader team is hard at work, getting better at their routines. Courtney Scarborough and Mackenzie Caputo were selected to the Bay State Conference All-Star team. The boys' soccer team had a 1-0 victory over Weymouth last Thursday night. It came on the night that seniors and parents were honored, and they hope to qualify for tournament play with some more games coming up. Field hockey, the team is still competing well and has a chance of qualifying for tournament play. They had a 1-0 victory over Notre Dame yesterday. The girls' volleyball team has a record of 10 wins and 5 losses at this point. They've already qualified for state tournament, hope to have a home match. The girls' cross-country team is having an outstanding season. They are 9-1 with a record of 5-0 in the Bay State Conference Herget Division. This is the girls' first team championship since 2009. And boys' cross-country has made vast improvements. They've improved, their times have improved, and they have their last home meet tomorrow against Braintree. They look forward to a strong finish at the Bay State Conference meet on Saturday, October 31st. So there are your athletic highlights, and hopefully at future meetings we'll turn these over to our student members, like they can give the athletic highlights.
And it didn't quite have the enthusiasm that we sometimes get from Mary Pigskin Gormley on some things. I would point out, I thought the football game on Saturday was at 2 o'clock, but your information may be better than mine, but anyone out there?
I thought it was at 2.
Yeah, anyone out there maybe just double check, because I thought it was 2, but I'm sure you can double check.
My understanding is we will have a fan bus going as well.
Okay, great. Is there any way for people to find out about the fan bus, or is it
You
just
should have it check the Milton Public Schools website.
on the website? Okay.
We'll get it up there.
And on the library gala tomorrow night, if you go to the Milton Public Library website, if you're still interested in going, I'm sure there are tickets available if you want to go to the library gala tomorrow night. Is there anything else that anybody, Ms. Rowley?
And for the Pierce Fall Fling, which is also tomorrow night, you can buy tickets at the door if at last minute you want to stop in and socialize and have a cocktail and some appetizers, so, yep.
Okay, all set?
I have
Oh,
something
Ms.
else to
Badera.
rush.
Oh, Ms. Badera.
Oh, and the library gala, the online auction is open, too. I don't know if you've been looking at that. There's a nice snow blower if you want to get ready for the winter.
Haven't done that yet.
So the MFE organizers asked me to say a few words about the Monster Dash, because there's some updates. Number 1, tomorrow, the online sign-ups end at 11 p.m. So if you want to sign up online, they recommend that, you'll have to sign up before 11 p.m. They also recommend that you do the online sign-up if you want a T-shirt, because they have the T-shirts only go to the first 500 entrants. Last year, I think they far exceeded that number, close to 1,000. So they're getting pretty close to that 500 number. So if you want a T-shirt, sign up online tomorrow before 11 p.m. and you'll probably likely get one. 3rd. There is like a chance of rain right now in the forecast for Sunday. I'm sorry, the race is on Sunday. But right now, the race is going ahead as scheduled. If anything changes, they will either post on Facebook, there'll be an e-blast. If you're already registered, registrants will probably receive an email or a phone call. So just keep watching for those updates. But right now, the race is going on as planned. You might get a little wet, it'll still be a lot of fun there. Sunday, so just recapping, Saturday, they're also doing packet pickup as well as in-person registration from 2 to 4. Sunday is the race. Registration starts at 9 a.m. Kids' activities start at 10 a.m. The 5K is at 11 a.m. And there'll be fun and awards after, including some fun awards for teams and some creative awards as well as the fastest runners. So I think that's the update on the Monster Dash. It's a lot of fun. Come in your costume. Plenty of people will be, I will be in costume. I don't know about Mr. Zulus, if he's going to come up with a costume for this year as well, but a lot of fun will be had. Yes, Mr.
Walker?
The Milton Wellesley game's at 3 o'clock.
It is at 3 o'clock.
Wellesley High School.
It is, okay.
Thank you. That's all I got.
All right. Anything else on happenings? Next on the agenda, thank you very much, Assistant Superintendents Sheehan and Pavlicek. Next, we have the Chair's report. The first item under the Chair's report is the item that we added on the 5-year financial forecast request from the town. We have received an invitation from the town administrator who has invited all the chairs of boards and committees in town to attend a presentation of the 5-year financial forecast on Tuesday, November 3rd at approximately 8 p.m. at the Council on Aging. So the invitation was to all the chairs, but anyone who's on the committee obviously can attend and is invited to attend. If you could let me know maybe by the Thursday before the 3rd, because if we have a quorum, we might want to go ahead and post it as a meeting of our committee. If it looks like we're going to have 4 more of our committee attend. And in connection with that, the town has asked us, well, let me step back. This committee voted a 5-year financial forecast to present to the town. We have been asked to present some alternative scenarios with different cost percentages and different one-time percentages. And we've been asked to do that prior to the meeting on Tuesday, November 3rd. Our next meeting is on Wednesday, November 4th. And so in order to have this accomplished, so we can get those alternative scenarios to the town prior to the presentation on the 3rd, it seems to me there are 2 ways to go. One is we can delegate to the Finance Subcommittee, which will be meeting in the interim, delegate to them, the Finance Subcommittee, the review of those alternative scenarios, review and vote on those alternative scenarios, or we could delegate it to the Assistant Superintendent for Business. Seems to me the better course is for Finance to sign off on those alternative scenarios. Maybe just to start the discussion, I will move to delegate to the Finance Subcommittee the creation of alternative scenarios for the 5-year financial forecast to present to the town.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Bailey-Jones.
Just a question. Can you explain a little bit more what you mean about the scenarios? What would those look like?
So one of the scenarios, they've asked for a different percentage of costs. We had 1% of costs, and they've asked for a different percentage of cost. And the other scenario they've asked us to look at is the one-time costs that we had in prior budgets, and whether those would be rolling forward.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 2 alternatives that we've been asked to look at.
Okay.
And it would be a matter of plugging in different numbers, basically.
So numbers or cut lists?
No cut list. No cut list. It's really just plugging in different numbers into a spreadsheet, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will give a bottom line number for us to provide to the town, and they can put it into their spreadsheet, and that will go towards to the presentation on Tuesday the 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Walker.
I don't have anything on the proposed motion, but on the presentation of the 5-year plan, it's not, we, as you might recall, we engaged in an accelerated schedule earlier this year to meet the selectmen's deadline that we produce a 5-year forecast by February 1, and then sought to schedule a time to brief the selectmen on how we develop that forecast. That meeting never happened. So if this meeting is that meeting, then I would suggest that either the chair or the chair of the finance subcommittee present the 5-year forecast. This sounds like the town administrator, the town accountant, and our assistant superintendent for business will be presenting the plan to us. I'd rather present our own financial forecast first, because we never got the opportunity to do that. We never talked about how, and we put a lot of work into it, and we developed a whole set of assumptions, and now we have a model that I think will serve us well. But I'd certainly like the opportunity to explain to the selectmen how we got to where we are.
Yeah. Well, so what we can do is, clarify that with the town administrator. We'll clarify that with the town administrator between now and then. I know it's been presented to us as a presentation of the 5-year financial forecast, but I'm sure it will be interactive. And the question is, just how to plan that interactivity. So,
Good.
Ms. Downs? I'll try. The motion is to delegate to the Finance Subcommittee the creation of alternative scenarios for the 5-year financial forecast that have been requested by the town administrator. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Now we move on to the Massachusetts Association of School Committee resolutions. There is an annual conference held by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees at which, among the many festivities that they have, I'm told, they actually consider substantive resolutions to pass. And our representative for the last couple of years has been Ms. Badera. Ms. Badera, I think she's our official representative. I think she's going to be accompanied by Ms. Varela this year. And so we have before us, for consideration, 7 resolutions that comprise the report of the Resolutions Committee of the MASC. And so those are the resolutions that are going to be before us for our consideration to give some feedback to Ms. Badera as she will consider those resolutions on her behalf at the conference. And so I'll turn this over to Ms. Badera for the consideration of the resolutions. And I think we should take these individually, and have a motion and discussion individually on each of the resolutions.
Yeah, so it's time to vote on the resolutions, the most exciting time of the year in the school committee schedule. So there are 7 resolutions, as Mr. Zulus has said. I'm not going to read all of that. I'm sure that you've studied them in depth, but I'll just read the paragraph. Therefore, it should be resolved. So number 1, and then basically, if you have any questions, or I can tell you I did consult with administration a little bit on some of these because it involved some of the administration's work that they've done already or are doing. So number 1 is resolution regarding high school starting times. Therefore, it be resolved that MASC be authorized to petition the legislator and to support legislation, including S.254, which calls for the establishment of a special commission to study the appropriate starting time for students in middle and high school. One of the things I thought was integral in this resolution is at the end it says identify resources and opportunities to assist districts in implementing later school day start times for middle school and secondary schools. I certainly think that this is an interesting topic. We've done some studying on it before, but any resources that could help in recommendations of that sort would probably be helpful to us, and administration agreed with that. So I would recommend that we vote yes on this, but I'd be interested in any school committee or school committee member's opinion.
So do you want to move that we support Resolution 1, just for the purpose of...
I would move that we support resolution, voting yes on Resolution 1.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Barbara Jones.
I think it would be great if we supported this. I've never really understood why high school students start early and the younger kids start later. The issue when we looked at it before was that it impacts by sports.
Schedule, yeah.
So unless it's across all of the towns that we belong to, we're not going to be able to do it. So it'll be interesting to see, but that would be my only concern. So I think it's a great idea to do it.
Ms. Varela.
So to follow up on Ms. Bagley-Jones, so I mean, as a parent of a high schooler, I would be all for it, especially since so many of them are here till 6 o'clock most nights anyway. But so if the big issue, though, is the after-school activities, especially sports, and it would have to be a statewide issue, would this be a good forum to say, okay, well, bottom line is everyone needs to start the sports later. Like, everything needs to be moved so that that can happen. Because but would that basically mean, though, that most sports are played, I mean, do they start now at, I'll ask the kids, what time do they start in the afternoon? 3:30? 4 o'clock? Or the sport?
It varies on sport.
Typically, though, for an afternoon.
3 o'clock, 3:15, 3:30.
But then there's also travel time
Yes.
for the away game, so it's really...
And so for away games, if you have 2:45, do you start any time between 3:30 and 4?
Yeah, we usually get to,
Yeah. So would the major issue be, would start time have to be 5 to 6?
So this resolution is just to support the legislation. There's actually
All right.
Senate
But I think the
legislation
biggest-
to establish a commission to look into all of
Okay.
this. So I think that's what that's the vote here.
Right, okay, but just for feedback, Becky, if you're at this, that's the biggest thing that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, this is a vote. Now, remember, all these resolutions are just telling the organization that we belong to
Right.
that we want them to petition the legislation. So it's not even petitioning the legislation as much as it's telling our group, MASCA, that we want them to push this on our behalf. And this is just a study to study these early or later high school times. And perhaps out of that, support funding for supporting that practice. So it's kind of early in that before, asking start times and things. But as Ms. Bagley-Jones said, if more schools changed or were supported to change, then it would help schools that wanted to change, I think, is the bottom line.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Resolution 2.
So Poverty in Children, Resolution 2, submitted by the Framingham School Committee. Therefore be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committee will prioritize as a matter of its public policy agenda and file for and support legislation that will support the eradication of poverty among children in Massachusetts and advocate for social and economic justice for students and their families that will include support for a revenue stream that supports social and economic priorities for children and families, support for state programs and services that serve children at greatest social and emotional risk, which are easily accessible to students and families, advocacy for nutrition programs that eradicate hunger among children, advocacy for health care, including vision, hearing, and dental and mental health through accessibility service providers, support for pre-kindergarten programs for all children, advocacy for increasing educational opportunities for children to grow both inside and outside of school. I would move that we support a yes vote on this resolution.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
It's a lofty goal and a good one. It's a very good goal.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Resolution 3.
Resolution 3, tying test scores to Chapter 70 funding. Therefore, be it resolved that MASCA's support legislation to ensure that individual student MCAS and/or PARCC assessment data in a given academic year is ascribed to the school and district that claims Massachusetts Chapter 70 funding, based on that student's October 1 enrollment, provided that the student is enrolled in a Massachusetts school when the tests are administered. Just a little background on this, because I did meet with administration. I think I'm going to move that we vote yes on this. Basically, what it will do is students, when they move into the district, sometimes we're responsible for their scores, and they've been in another district for a longer time than that. So this would change that somewhat, or we would be petitioning legislation to change that. So I would move that we vote yes on the school.
Second.
Resolution, sorry.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Walker?
Just, can you give me just a little more detail on what the problem is and what the solution is?
So I'm going to, because I did talk with Mr. Pavlicek a little bit about this, I'm going to turn this over to him because he can describe the timing of it a little bit better than I can.
Chapter 70 funding is determined by the October 1st report, so wherever a student is on October 1st determines what district gets funded for that student in the following year. What can happen, and there are all sorts of timing issues here, is a student after October 1st will move into a different district and take MCAS or PARC, and the test score will be ascribed to one school, despite the fact they've only been there for a very short amount of time possibly, but the funding for them is going to a different school. And so the idea here is to just sort of tie the two together. If you're going to get the money for it, you should take the test score as well, be it for good or for bad.
So can I, just for clarification, so the example is that if a student of ours, or if we have a student move in here on October 1, or I started.
October 3rd.
October 3rd, I'm sorry. And then Park is administered when usually, or
March.
whatever, March. So, or you're saying if they're on record as being, I'm confused about when they're our student and when they move and how it gets accredited to us and not them. Give just an example.
Well, test scores are associated with the town in which you're enrolled at the moment you take them.
Okay,
Chapter 70 funding is associated with the city or town you are in on October 1st.
okay.
So would they take a snapshot of all the communities on October 1st, which we're just in the process of filing now.
Yeah.
And that will be used to determine the partition of next year's Chapter 70 funds.
Dr. Donahue?
So just for clarity, for those who may be listening now or in the future, so to my mind, there are three issues that come into play. The first is the sort of innocent example of the child who starts school in Milton, moves to Canton, and we get the funding and Canton gets the score. And it would be more appropriate if that were tied one to the other. The second is the more sinister example alluded to in the documents here where students are encouraged to leave a district after a district has received money for their enrollment so that their scores do not bring that district's collective score down, which would this would serve to ameliorate. And the third is just a point to those who just look at the title that this is not a recommendation for tying teacher pay to test scores, which if you just sort of read the title, you could come away with that impression. This is not that. So that's my 3 cents on the matter.
Yeah, I think I thought of that one, that's good. Thanks, everyone.
Mr. Walker?
So this seems like an imperfect solution. That is, we could be, if we're on the receiving end, it may be a good thing. On the other hand, if we have a student who we had from September to February, they then move to another district, take the test in another district, then I'd argue that we should get the higher percentage of the Chapter 70 funding. So my question is this an all or nothing, or is there an opportunity to prorate the funding? Because I think, as it's presently proposed, I'm not sure I'm in favor. I see the problem, but I'm not sure that the fix is the best fix.
Mr. Sills?
Yeah, Dr. Pavlicek.
I think what you'll find at the MASC meeting is most of these resolutions never take the shape that they exactly appear in at this moment. There will be amendments from the floor, there will be changes and so forth on a good number of the resolutions. And I think the important thing probably here is to give Ms. Padera the sense of how the committee feels about it, so she knows that when an amendment is made, she'll have some idea of the feeling of the committee. And so if your suggestion is that tweaking would be in order, then I think you're making that
My
suggestion
suggestion would be that there's the opportunity for proration where appropriate.
Ms. Bagley Jones?
That's a question. So it is October 1st, where that kid is until October 1st, that's the town that gets the money.
Yes.
Right. So there's nothing. It's all or nothing. So I think it would be a good idea to look at the prorating part of it, or at least equalize it if it can't be prorated. You get the good, you get the, however that works. It would at least be somewhat equitable, maybe.
So we have a motion that's been made and seconded. Do we want to suggest a friendly amendment with respect to prorating or looking into a possible amendment on the floor to prorate the funding?
I'd be willing to offer that if you rule that it's in order.
Ms. Patera?
So, when we, as I'm assigned to go to these things, a lot of times, as in last year, some of the resolutions changed, and I basically voted the way I thought the spirit of, the way we wanted things to go. I think as we've clarified with Mr. Pavlicek, I can kind of go and vote any way I want, regardless of any recommendations, but I've always voted with the recommendation of the committee. But if there are amendments, other school committee members and delegates do make amendments or propose amendments on the floor. So certainly, if they're reasonable, you can make the suggestion of an amendment that I can make on the floor, and I'd be amenable to looking at that.
So I don't think it would be out of order, and I think it would be in order to have a friendly amendment to support the resolution and to explore the possibility of an amendment with respect to prorating the funding.
So I'd make it a little stronger. I'd say that I move that we support, or here's the friendly amendment. The friendly amendment is that we support the amendment with a provision for proration of Chapter 70 funding where appropriate.
Do we need a second on that?
No, it's a friendly amendment.
Like
It's
you
the
were
question,
thinking.
well, I'm thinking whether I'm going to support that. I'm trying to decide, the ins and outs of that, but the question is to Ms. Padera whether she'll accept the friendly amendment.
I think I'd have to have something in writing as what to propose, because obviously this goes a yes, it's like a yes or no vote, and you can propose amendments, so I'd have to have something written out and look at it in terms of proposing that on the floor. But I'm not sure, I think as written from what we looked at, this was good as is. I don't know, I'm questioning it as well, just because I don't want it to get too complicated. This is really something that, again, we're just having MASCA petition the legislation to look at this, and I would say that I would leave it as is for now, with the suggestion that we, I think there are a lot of things that are going to come up in the discussion in terms of how would this look, and that's down the road. This is just a proposal for MASCA to petition the legislation to look at the way they're assigning Chapter 70 funding in a more fair and level way, I think, the way this is written, and I think I'm okay with that. If we go into details for later, as we've said for the last, 5 years or so, they're analyzing Chapter 70 funding in detail, and I'm sure this will become part of that as well. But I'm okay with the way it is. I don't know if other people feel strongly about changing or proposing an amendment. I would look at it.
So it sounds like the friendly amendment is not accepted.
That's very wordy.
But in a very diplomatic way. So, any further discussion on the motion? We're back to the motion for the motion on the floor, which has been made and seconded.
I think,
Ms. Bailey-Jones.
as Becky said earlier, you can take the gist of what the feeling is. This whole thing raises a lot of questions and needs a lot of work being done on it, but I do like the idea of the prorated piece of it, if and when that gets worked out. So I'm okay with it not being amended, but you'll take that spirit with you of
Yes, I will.
what Mr. Walker brought up.
All right, all those in favor? Opposed? 5-1, Mr. Walker, with the no vote. Resolution 4.
Okay, Resolution 4, support for an equitable and sustainable placement program for students covered under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Act. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees file for and support legislation that will design, implement, and fund a program that will provide a more sustainable and equitable placement program for the state's homeless and McKinney-Vento students. A placement program needs to include consideration of the social, emotional, and behavioral circumstances of the student, timing of the placement in relation to budgetary considerations, and proximity to the student's previously established support system, and the availability of resources the receiving district has to accommodate the student's needs. So I would move that we support this resolution with a yes vote. I think that, just as a little background on when a student's homeless, the last school district that they attended is a school that they are supported to attend, and the school takes over that responsibility in terms of transportation and and I think this is looking into that. Sometimes the student is not living near the district and they're living outside of that, far outside of that, and this says their support structures elsewhere, and it seems to be a better program, or petitioning the legislation to look at a better program for supporting those students, and supporting the school districts that are supporting those students would be a good idea.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Bailey-Jones.
I have a question. Maybe I'm just a little confused by this. So is this saying that they would like us to support if a child becomes homeless and moves to Milton? I don't understand how this is going to change, because right now, if a child becomes homeless, they're allowed to stay in their previous school district, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, I know this, I'm just trying to think this through. So how does this change that? What is it going to do?
Well, it sounds to me, and maybe I'm not an expert in this, but I read the language. It sounds to me like they're trying to create a program to take a lot of other factors into consideration.
Yes, they're trying to take other considerations, and also where the best place for that student to be if their support structure is elsewhere. And it's not going to not support the student that's homeless. I don't think we're not petitioning the legislation to take away that support, those supports, but to look at other things and to better support them and better support the districts.
So it's trying to get kids to stay in one school when there's multiple moves. So wherever the child is, the money allocated to that child goes with them. I assume that's the basis of the concerns about this?
Go ahead.
Dr. Pavlich?
The McKinney-Vento Act and homeless children fall into the same notion of Chapter 70 as everyone else. The district receives the money wherever the child is on October 1st. But children who are homeless have the ability to attend any school that they can reasonably get to. If they're,
And so how would that district be
but
helped?
that district would not necessarily be helped.
Okay, and so would this resolution help them?
I think what this resolution is looking at is trying to explore a way to help them.
That's what
Because there is,
Thank you. That's what I was trying to...
in special education, if you move a child with a a substantial out-of-district placement into a
Right.
community mid-year, if this town hasn't had the ability to budget for it, the previous
That's right.
town still foots the bill for that year
Right.
until a new
Okay.
budget can be made. There is no similar provision
Right.
for McKinney-Vento or
Got it.
homeless children.
That's what I wanted. Thank you.
Anything further? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Resolution 5.
Resolution 5, tax reform ballot question. Therefore, be it resolved that the Masca explore ways to promote social and economic equity through a ballot initiative whose purpose may include a state constitutional amendment, tax reform, protection of the state's neediest residents of all ages, and seeks additional revenue only from tax reform affecting the state's wealthiest residents. Further, that the goal of such a ballot referendum would be to secure a stronger financial base to underwrite needed improvements in the infrastructure of the Commonwealth, as well as the educational, social, and economic well-being of its residents. This was submitted by the Masca Board of Directors. I would move that we support a yes vote on this resolution.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Walker?
I think this is well beyond the scope of the MASC and poorly written as well. So I would suggest that we do not support this. For example, seeks additional revenue only from tax reform affecting the state's wealthiest residents. What does that mean?
I'd have to say I agree with Mr. Walker on this because while the lofty goals are worthy, it is very open-ended about what this ballot initiative would be. And so, given that, I'm of the same mind as Mr. Walker. Dr. Pavlicek.
This was written and submitted to MASC during the summer, and since then, the Raise Up Massachusetts ballot question has actually been, is gathering signatures. So this is one of those ones I think that will probably be edited heavily on the floor of the MASS annual meeting and probably into an endorsement of the Raise Up Massachusetts petition drive, which is to create a graduated income tax in Massachusetts with a second bracket for people over $1 million a year in income, with those funds dedicated to schools and transportation. That's the current ballot initiative. My guess is that's what this will be amended to be on the floor, because this was written before that was a reality, when that was being drafted. I think that's the reason for the confusion of the language of this, which is, granted, quite confusing.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? And all those opposed? And so it is 1-5 with Ms. Padere in support. Resolution 6.
Resolution 6, membership of a school committee member on the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, submitted by the Masca Board of Directors again. This is a little bit lengthy, so I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. Therefore be it resolved that Masca submit to the general court proposed legislation that MGL Chapter 15, Section 1E be revised. What they're basically adding at the end, it says, is one representative from a school committee from a list of three nominees provided by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees and 5 additional members. So they have the list of who's already on this committee, and they want a school committee representative on that committee.
So the motion is...
I would move that we vote yes on this resolution, Resolution 6.
Second motion. Any discussion? Apparently not. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Resolution 7.
Resolution 7, relative to the teaching strategies gold assessments for kindergarten students, submitted by the Arlington School Committee. Therefore, be it resolved that Masca urge the Department of Early Education and Care and the Department of Elementary Secondary Education to end the mandate that districts implement TS Gold or any other externally developed kindergarten assessment. If anyone feels strongly, certainly they can give me their comments. I'm just waiting to confer once more with the administration on the TS Gold assessments that we currently use in our kindergartens before I would advise a yes or no vote on this. So I guess what I'm saying is, and I should meet with them tomorrow, I'm saying if anybody feels strongly one way or the other, but I would move that you give me the decision after meeting with administration to vote either yes or no in the way that we feels appropriate.
So it sounds like the motion is to delegate to Ms.
Yeah.
Badera the discretion to vote on this resolution. Is that,
Yes.
well, I don't know that you don't have it anyway.
I
in
already
some
have that,
respects,
but, yeah.
But, all right, so I don't know if that, if you want to make that motion, if you already have it.
You're always so technical on the wordy stuff, huh?
No, I don't, you might want to make no motion at all on this. You might want to take no action at all unless the committee, someone on the
Well, I
committee
guess
feels
if anybody
strongly.
has any comments on it at this time, they can talk about it, but otherwise I would just say that I'm going to wait. I can't make a recommendation this time until I confer with Superintendent Gore, unless Assistant Superintendent Janet Sheehan had additional information. But we were waiting on discussing this with our kindergarten teachers, I think, and administrators about the TS Gold program, because I don't know enough about it. Right?
Ms. Varela.
Yeah, I would like, I was going to ask even before the further discussion, if either of the assistant superintendents could, I'm not even familiar with the TS Gold
Right.
assessment, and then, but if we want to table that, and then if Ms. Padero speaks to the administration and then presents it to us of like, what it is, because again, I don't know enough about it.
Well, we vote, I'm going to be voting the night of your next school committee member, so there, meeting, so there won't be enough time to bring it back to you before I vote, so that's the only thing.
right,
So
then
I
can
guess
I-
I don't have a motion, it's just, that's what I intend on doing, and if anybody has any comments, they can make them if they know.
So here, oh, go ahead.
Well, then I was just wondering too, I don't know, just on a very broad stroke, if maybe Assistant Superintendent Sheen could just explain broadly and what it is.
So the TS Gold assessment system is a mandate from the Department of Education that is to be used in all kindergarten programs across the state. It is a, what we would call a developmental assessment, and it assesses all of the domains, all of the developmental domains in a child of kindergarten age. So it's the social, emotional, academic readiness, and it's very involved. There are multiple standards, and we have Ada Rosemarin, who has been working with our kindergarten team for the last couple of years. The teachers have received a considerable amount of professional development around implementing this assessment tool, but what they have done is gradually implemented it, so they're not assessing all of the domains just because it is very time-consuming, very much involved. So they're sort of doing a partial assessment, which is acceptable by DESE at this point. There is some controversy around it. Our kindergarten teachers have worked very hard at implementation, and we have tried to give them the time that is needed to maintain the assessment data. So I think it is certainly helpful in knowing the whole child. But I do think that we came up with a plan for implementation for this year that was manageable for the kindergarten teachers, but it was with the understanding that we would assess needs going forward and evaluate the success of that tool with the kindergarten team.
So, Ms. Bailey-Jones.
So am I understanding right, this is the first year that we've implemented it?
It's the second year.
It's the second year.
We're also using it in the preschool program as well.
Okay. So I saw, if I can just,
Please, yeah,
I
please.
saw a couple of questions about it. It sounds like this is against the actual measurement, the TS Gold. It's saying we're uploading personal information. The parents say they're not getting any information. It's disruptive to the classroom. So is it that they're asking for it to be another they don't like this one because of those reasons, and they want to get rid of it, because the last line is, or any other externally developed kindergarten assessments. So is this resolution saying no kindergarten assessments? I don't care.
I don't think so.
Because it says, or any other externally developed kindergarten assessments.
I think,
It's a-
Chairman Zulus, that they mean mandated assessment
So
that
a
comes down from the
mandated
state.
assessment. So
Right.
you would assess, but you could choose your own.
That,
Yeah.
that sounds like what the language
I
says.
can live with that. I think that would be good, actually.
Well, we don't have a motion on the floor. Let me suggest this, and see what everyone thinks. We do have Finance Committee meetings, or meetings that are noticed prior to November 3rd. I don't want to overload the Finance Committee agenda. However, those are meetings that are noticed as full school committee meetings, and if we delegated it to the Finance Committee, or delegated to the Finance Committee, and had the feedback from the administration at that time, it could be considered by either the Finance Subcommittee or by any member here who wants to show up at that meeting. But again, I don't want to overload, and I'll defer to our chair of the Finance Subcommittee. I don't want to overload that committee, but just in terms of timing, that's the thought.
I accept the delegation. If I might comment on the matter, this seems to be a pretty broad policy question, and I think we need a little more of a briefing on what the implications are. You could make the argument either way, that a mandate that there be some assessments is probably a good thing. Maybe it shouldn't be TS Gold, but this says any other externally developed assessments. I don't think we want each school district to develop their own internal assessments and use just those. So this seems to be a much broader question. I think it's okay to send our delegate with a no vote on this one. But happy to discuss it at this week's Finance Subcommittee meeting, which Ms. Bagley Jones, by the way, is 8 o'clock
It is okay, good.
on Monday morning.